You know what? Sometimes the Mary Sue really does have some of the best cringe.
Actually, leave Rachel Zegler alone already.
Why? She's a celebrity that's saying some pretty retarded stuff. I mean, come on. You guys capitalize on that all the time. We can't help the fact that Rachel Zegler is the poster child for stupidity right now.
Big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
My God, she even has Brie Larson beat as completely unlikable. That is a feat into itself.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Now, I'm going to skip the majority of this Mary Sue article because it mainly talks about her comments about standing in the dress, I want to get paid for all that time comments, which I don't care about. What I want to get is to the actual Snow White stuff, which is absolutely hilarious.
Literally, nobody cared about Snow White before.
That's not an argument nor a defense. Yeah, you're right. I don't care about Snow White, not to the depth of other things, but I do have an opinion about it. Last I checked, people are allowed to have opinions on things they don't care about. Hell, you know what? It actually made me read the fairy tale. Last time I read Snow White was when I took my folklore class in college, and yes, I actually did pay good money to take a course on folklore and fairy tales. I guess the joke's on me. Let's be clear, Rachel, because you're the one who wrote this article. You don't care about Chris Gore, but you wrote an entire article about him anyway. Now, Rachel proceeds to go on and talk about how much she actually hates Snow White because she had short hair, much like Snow White. So when her and her friends played princesses, she kept getting stuck with Snow White when she wanted to play Belle. Bitter much? So I'm just gonna go and skip this first part. She goes on to say,
I truly and honestly haven't heard anyone say that Snow White is their favorite princess until now. And when you think that this was the only princess we've ever known, and that Rachel Zegler's simple comments on updating her story were saying that she was the worst thing on the planet.
No, they were just dumb and ignorant because people like you and Rachel can't take 5 minutes to Google search Snow White and be bothered to read the fairy tale or watch the original movie again. The original story is not about Snow White being a girl boss. It's about her not getting murdered by her stepmother.
Zegler's comments about her upcoming Snow White differs from the animated film from 1937, has gone viral in a way where people are using it to mock Zegler and acting as if Snow White raised them.
No, people are mocking her because what she said was stupid. And let's be honest here, those talking points probably came from the mouse's mouth itself. Believe it or not, Rachel, people actually care about culture, and though Snow White may not be their favorite thing, or people may not even care about it at all, but it is just another brick in the wall of the culture war. Most people are tired of these soulless corporate remakes that are nothing more than a cash grab. It's injected with this DEI crap. This Snow White will not be a timeless classic. It will be forgotten 5 minutes after it comes out. The issue here is that they're taking everything that is iconic about Snow White and making it not. It has absolutely nothing to do with the original tale other than the name. You don't have the 7 dwarves, you don't even have the frickin' prince. They basically made him the Prince of Thieves. Okay, the Middle Ages, which is pretty much the time period that Snow White is set in, is not progressive. If you wanted to tell such a progressive tale, why didn't you just go and adapt it for the modern time period rather than something that takes place in the past? Because this is basically revisionist history. Because you could actually go and adapt something like this and make it work. 12 Things I Hate About You is a remake of The Taming of the Shrew, but it is set during a modern time period, and it has, yes, more modern sensibilities in it. But the film actually worked, and it wasn't complete horseshit.
Sorry that Snow White sucks.
I'm looking forward to these retarded hot takes.
If you don't want to listen to her say it, I will. Snow White was not a message I wanted to learn as a kid.
What, that there's awful people in the world that might murder you for reasons? Or vanity could be your own undoing?
I hated that she let men rule her life, and I hated that she was literally just known as hated for being beautiful.
Rachel. First off, men weren't ruling her life. The men that she was staying with were protecting her from being murdered by her stepmother. Also, it's not beauty, it's fairer. That's the word they use. Who's the fairest one of all? And that could be interpreted two different ways. The first and most obvious one is the surface level beauty that you just mentioned. Now, fair means several different things depending on how you read it. It doesn't just mean that someone who is attractive. It can mean somebody who is just and kind or light complected. But to understand this would require for you to think, which clearly you did not do.
If anything, I made fun of her because in what world would I run away and go live with a bunch of dudes and clean up after them in the woods?
First off, Rachel, if you actually watched the movie or read the fairy tale, you would know that she didn't run away. She was dragged out into the woods to be murdered. And that the bunch of dudes that she lived with and cleaned up after were protecting her from the person who was wanting to kill her. I suppose what you would rather have her do is kick back and do absolutely nothing while the men do all the work, because why not?
After surviving someone trying to murder me because they thought I was pretty.
Again, Rachel, the word pretty or beauty is never used. Vanity is, but again, the word fairer is lost on you.
I hope that the movie changes Snow White's story and makes it one that I can relate to. Or even just one that I'm not outright against.
Hey, look, I understand that not everything is for me, and maybe this is not for you, Rachel. Maybe you shouldn't care about Snow White, much like you said earlier. But this seems very, I don't know, narcissistic, saying, well, if it's only a movie I could just relate to or not hate as much. Yes, I get the irony of my statement. I'm making a video talking about something I don't particularly give a shit about, but yet I'm sharing my opinion with you because I actually do have one. But at the end of the day, when it comes to something like Barbie, despite my criticisms that I may or may not have, I understand that it's a movie that's not for me. And maybe for Rachel, this is not a movie for her either, and that's fine. But if you're going to make a cohesive argument about something, at least have one.
What I truly don't understand is how everyone has been so quiet about their love of Snow White until now.
And yes, Snow White is not something I deeply care about, but I do care about our culture as a whole and anything that goes and impacts it and attempts to erode it and destroy it. So yes, things like this do piss me off. It's not just because of Snow White, it's literally all of our entertainment right now, all of pop culture.
Rachel Zegler commented on the weird facts about the movie, like Prince Charming quite literally following Snow around and just kissing her awake when they don't even know each other.
It's funny when I hear people talk about things like this because I guess you just want her to go and die. It makes me think of the consent meme for Sleeping Beauty, where the prince goes, oh wait, I didn't get her consent, and then you see her as a skeleton.
It is weird.
Weird.
It's what we call projecting.
I did not take her comments as her saying that wanting to fall in love is anti-feminist, but rather that she is just saying that's not the only thing about her Snow.
No, the film literally does not have Prince Charming in it. It just has some guy who's a leader of a bunch of bandits. In her own words said he could be cut from the film. You don't know, it's Hollywood, right? So I'm pretty sure the dude is just getting friend zoned if he's not being outright eliminated to begin with. So how's that for taking things out of context?
What we're all missing in this outrage against Zegler is any sort of nuance.
No. I'm pretty sure these statements stand on their own.
Literally, Andrew Burnett is supposed to be her prince, reportedly.
Well, reportedly, he's not a prince, but the leader of a bunch of bandits. You know, the 7 mystical creatures.
Zegler's comments about cutting him out, jokes.
So no prince or a different kind of prince?
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie.
Right.
Andrew Burnett, great dude.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I think everyone's going to have their assumptions about what it's actually going to be, but it's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
Well, you might be willing to give her the benefit of the doubt. I, quite frankly, am not.
They're not serious, but everyone wants to hate on her, so they're taking them at face value.
No, not everybody wants to hate on her. They're just clowning her because of the stupid comments that she made. And let's be honest, like I said, these talking points, they're coming from Disney, not her. She's just the mouthpiece. How do I know this? How do I know this? Well, they did the exact same thing with The Little Mermaid.
The reality of the situation is a bunch of people don't like her and they're using Snow White as their defense.
Wow, let's be honest here. Most people never heard of Rachel Zegler until Snow White, even though she was in that Spielberg movie. And the only reason why I even know that is because of Snow White. I think the reality is that most people have a problem with somebody who has a tan being cast to play a character called Snow White because her skin is supposed to be white as snow. No, she's just another out-of-touch celebrity who has no freaking clue how the real world actually works.
What should you actually do? Leave Rachel Zegler alone. She's not doing anything to hurt you, and she doesn't deserve this.
And remember, Rachel Leishman, you wrote an article about Chris Gore and his comments about Make Marvel Male Again. Just remember that the next time you say that somebody doesn't deserve criticism. And I think the Access Media are beginning to realize that Rachel Zegler is indeed a brand risk. After all, there's an entire article written about how she's damaging the Snow White brand right now. Anyway, that's my take. What is yours? Leave a comment, hit that like button, and if you enjoyed this video, check out the one that should be popping up right about there. I'll catch you next time, folks.